brand new show revolves around the last blockbuster in the world. It's a cool concept, but is it funny? Let's talk about it. What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. Blockbuster is a series I was super excited for. Love the cast, love the concept. We're going to dive into whether or not this is worth a watch right now. Let's do it. So, Timmy, fun fact, that's actually my first name, is an analog dreamer living in a 5G world. And after learning he is operating the last Blockbuster video in America, Timmy and his staff of employees, including his longtime crush Eliza, fight to stay relevant. The only way to succeed is to remind their community that they provide something big corporations can't: human connection. This series is rated TV-14 for language and substances, so nothing abnormal there. Vanessa Ramos is the creator behind this, a writer from series like Superstore and Brooklyn Nine-Nine, so you see those and all of the talent involved. I love the cast here. J.B. Smoove, Tyler Alvarez, Olga Meredith, Madeline Arthur, Randall Park as our main character in Timmy, and Melissa Fumero, and so many more that I can't even begin to talk about. Talented and often hilarious comedians or actors coming in and hopefully providing us a series that we can not only laugh at but connect to, because we all have that nostalgic feeling for Blockbuster. Even if you're younger and you don't fully remember going into a Blockbuster store as a kid, or if you're older and that's what you used to do all of the time. We had our local Blockbuster, man, and it was just like this show, and what I hope to get from the show, it was the spot. Not only the spot for casual moviegoers, but the spot for people who loved and enjoyed movies. You go in and there's just this vast array of different types of films divided by genres. Man, I wish they had something like that in a digital space right now. Wait a second. And even though there's a reason why Blockbuster went out of business, we're living in a digital age, there was just something so magical about going into a Blockbuster, which is why, the sadness and the emotions that come from watching a series like this, you were hoping to get that. Now, the first episode, there are a couple of elements in there that I had hoped to see, right? You get the very specific movie references. You get jokes revolving around movie moments. And there are some lines in here, and these specifically aren't from the first episode, but some lines. The saddest thing I ever said is 1 ticket for Space Jam 2. There's a conversation revolving around English dub or subtitles. Which one do we like more? Someone describes the difference between Room and The Room. So it's these conversations that we have had as movie lovers, they are having on this show. Those were the most creative aspects of this series. That is what I wish they would have focused on more. Now, you do get some of the TV comedy scenarios. Every episode has its own little arc, and there are more grand arcs throughout the entirety of the season. But those specific scenarios, some of them revolve around movies and what they provide you. Others do not. An example of that was during the Halloween episode. 2 characters were kind of fighting to see who knows more about very niche and specific horror films. So that's an example of something like, oh yeah, I can relate to that. And even if you can't relate to that, there's some joy coming from these people who know so much about this one thing that we all at least appreciate. You also get pop culture references, not only movie references. James Corden is a menace. That's one thing that kind of stuck with me. So there are lines in here that made me chuckle, made me kind of smile. Did anything make me laugh out loud? Not necessarily, which was so disappointing because this series is constantly going for the laugh out loud gag, or constantly going for that zinger that at least makes you laugh more than I was laughing. That's the big problem with this show, is while some of those lines are creative, some of the scenarios are like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. There are other scenarios and relationships and ridiculous moments that just didn't have me laughing. And comedy is the most subjective thing in movies. If you're laughing and I'm not laughing, we could both bring up points as to the why, but no one's really wrong. So I'm not right or wrong in saying this, but this show did not make me laugh. And that's so disappointing, especially when you have Randall Park at the forefront. I think Timmy is a compelling character. He's just the guy who wants to be the best Blockbuster boss, but he also wants to be the one to save the final Blockbuster in the United States and make it run. Be this, what they refer to as a small business owner. And there are some moments in there that kind of capture owning and running a now small business post-pandemic, which we get references all throughout. There's also an overarching storyline where we're leading into something, and they keep bringing it up, and I'm like, is that going to play a part? Whether it does or not a huge role, you'll have to see. But I found that to be an interesting spin behind all of the madness going on. But there are relationships in the series that are also at the forefront. JB Smoove and Randall Park, their chemistry. Percy is one of Timmy's best friends, but they're a little on and off, a little hot and cold as we go because of their business relationship. Eliza, Melissa Fumero, is very good. I like her heart in this series. And there's a bit of a romantic tension thing going on between them. It gets better as it goes. And by the time we got to the final episode, I really started to vibe with their relationship. But they throw it in the first episode as this storyline that feels a bit forced because it kind of comes out of nowhere and you don't get the build-up necessary. You know, I go back to a show like The Office. That Jim and Pam relationship was built up over 3 to 4 seasons. It felt like they tried to do something like that all in 7 episodes in season 1. And I'm like, I don't know if that was the way to go about it. They're also just unlikable characters in this series. Kamea Fairburn plays Kayla, who is Percy's daughter. And Kayla she's not good to her father. And I get it. Her father does a couple of things in here. You're like, oh, okay, that's the wacky, silly side character. Man, she's mean. She's mean to her father. I mean, I think the performance is good. She does a nice job, but the character is just so unlikable. And I get it, that's what they're going for, but you need something there to when you get those moments that break the tension. And those moments are so few and far in between. After a rough start, the thing I found myself gravitating towards the most was that relationship between Timmy and Eliza. That was what was keeping me going. And of course, all of the movie references. I'm a sucker for those. But 70 to 80% of the rest of the show is all of these little subplots where 2 or 3 people from Blockbuster get themselves into some hijinks, whether it be Carlos or Hannah or these subplots that just really didn't, one, have anything to do with the premise that I was salivating for, like, Blockbuster, okay? But all of these little subplots have nothing to do with Blockbuster. And I get it, you're going to have moments in a show like this, but at least make them creative, at least make them compelling, make them funny, and they just weren't funny. And that was the biggest issue I had, even seeing something within the show that could carry on and become something that's really watchable and funny and cute, but it hasn't found its own yet in season 1. And I don't want to hold anything against it at this point because oftentimes some of my favorite comedic shows of all time, they don't find themselves in season 1. And that's why I think Blockbuster should be given that second chance to maybe not force that humor as much as it forces it. Maybe not do those one-liners under characters' breath. It's like, let your character talk. Let them feel like an actual human. Looking at the pilot, maybe the weakest episode of the entire season, the premise of the pilot is really good. Okay, guys, we are officially the last Blockbuster. What are we going to do? But then they go into something so ridiculous by the time we get to the end of the pilot, and I'm like, how is this compelling? Overall, I feel like Blockbuster Season 1 was a huge misfire, especially compared to what my expectations were for the show, and the talent of someone like a Melissa Fumero, Madeline Arthur, Randall Park, JB Smoove. I love these actors, so I will be tuning in to see Season 2. Before I give you guys my score, let me know your thoughts down below. Did you enjoy this series? Did you laugh more than me? And if you like this video, and you want to drop that like, that'd be cool. It feels like a missed opportunity. Blockbuster relies on unfunny jokes and ridiculous scenarios to carry viewers through the season. That being said, there is potential within the movie references and characters for future seasons to build off of, so I'm not giving up hope, but season 1 just didn't work for me. I'm going to 48% with my score. Let me know what you think about Blockbuster, both the show and the store, and the idea and the legacy of this nostalgic business. All right, guys, see you soon.